I know another issue I mentioned earlier that you've done a lot of work on since you've been on the Senate is criminal justice reform. Just curious about kind of why that's been so important to you, and maybe if there's one or two things that you have been able to do as a senator that you're super proud of in that area.
Oh, I am incredibly proud of the work that we were able to do I was the chair of the committee, standing committee on codes prior to the insurance. And codes, when you look at it on paper, it looks like codes, like video games. What's the code? But codes deals with matters in the penal law and things related to criminal justice. And so when we took the majority, we realized that the criminal justice system in New York was completely broken. Discovery reform was needed, and discovery reform simply is if you discovery the information that an accused individual is entitled to prior to their day of trial or whatever the case may be, or plea, right? And so prior to our reforms, in terms of New York State and discovery, the prosecutor could. I'm not saying every prosecutor did this, and I think that prosecutors, by and large, have been doing the right thing. But some folks weren't, and they were holding on to discoverable information until the eve of trial, not because it was the best thing to do, but they were allowed to do it. So we changed that. We changed the rules. We set a better schedule, in our opinion, and we've had conversation with law enforcement. The system works way better than it did before. There are two words that ring true sometimes in New York State and around the country, and they are the blame of everything, and it's called bail reform. They like to blame bail reform on everything on bail reform. Why is the price of groceries high? Well, because of bail reform. How come my kid didn't get into the college they wanted to? Well, you should ask bail reform. But the reality is, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that people, like, if you ask them a fundamental question, is that, do you think that somebody should be incarcerated based upon the amount of money that they have or don't have? Most rational people will say, no, you shouldn't be there. So, well, the thing that we would always say is, like, why should rich person X be allowed to bail themselves out of prison regardless of the charge, while poor person Y gets to stay in incarcerated? And poor person Y, shockingly, usually looks like me. They usually come from a community of color that's over-policed and under-resourced, right? And so doing bail reform was about limiting wealth-based detention, ending wealth-based detention. It wasn't about making sure that people can walk free for their crimes as sometimes it's positive. That's not true. You want accountability for everybody. If you do something wrong, you should be held accountable. But if you're accused of something, right, merely an accusation, why can't we figure out a way to be able to allow people to live their lives? Now, again, bail reform didn't apply to the most violent felonies. It doesn't apply to those charged with homicides. It doesn't charge, for the most heinous crimes. It doesn't apply. The judge has the option to remand the individuals. They still have the option to do something, as long as it's not excessive bail, which would be in the Constitution. They still have the ability to set bail. What we did in New York was take steps towards right-sizing a system that wasn't fair for people. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done there, and the work that we continue to do. And there's always work to be done in making sure that there's a fairer place, but while balancing that with public safety. And I think we've done an incredible job at that.